things happening last week, so I apologize for, recording this late for you guys. Either way, I hope it is helpful. This month, I feel that it's going to be a little bit challenging, okay? So, for those who don't want to hear this, you might want to click off because I do feel that there are some warnings here that I'm seeing, and you might need to be a little bit careful, okay? Of course, there's always going to be highs and lows, such as life. And so I feel like in the greater scheme of things, things will balance themselves out and kind of like, plateau, okay? Reach like a state of equilibrium and plateau. But I feel like things won't plateau and settle down, and I feel like there are some major sweeping changes that are coming in. And you might not see the end of it, the faint of heart. Let me just go through the reading, okay? I don't want to scare you. Let me just go through the reading. First of all, I saw one image, and it looks almost like a traditional, watercolor Chinese painting. That's what it looks like. They're like these really tall, high mountain ranges. They reach into the sky, and they're covered with mist. So you can see parts of the mountain range, you can see parts of the hills and things like that. And then there's a river. And everything is just, there's a lot of mist and dew and condensation in the atmosphere, so it's hard to see. So I would say visibility, you can probably only see like 100 feet in front of you. And then I see this boat, and I see this man on the boat. He has like a really long oar, and he's, it's like one of those one-handed, or rather, it just has one paddle. So you're kind of sticking it to the bottom of the river and moving the boat along. So that's what he's doing. And he's dressed in blue. He's dressed in like some blue traditional loose clothing. And then there's a woman in red. She's on the boat with him. So they're paddling. They're going towards a destination along the river. And then, but they can't really see what's ahead of them. But all the way out in the distance, there's this little house, okay? And once again, the atmosphere is covered in in like mist and just fog. But you can see the house in the distance because there's a light that's turned on, okay? So it's highly elevated. It seems like it's in the mountains, but he's in the water on this boat, and he's trying to get himself and her to that destination. And it seems like with this image, what I'm seeing is like, I know where I'm headed. I don't know how to get there, but I know where I'm supposed to be. Okay, like that's what this image really screams out to me about. And then I'm also hearing, it's like follow the path. You're not supposed to map out everything. You're only supposed to, do one thing at a time. Think like 100 feet ahead of you. Take it like, one step at a time almost, or even a situation where you have to have blind faith in order to get through the murky waters. That's what it feels like to me. It feels almost as if you are thinking about or embarking on a very daunting task. You don't have all the necessary, information. You don't have everything within your toolkit, but you know exactly what the end product is supposed to look like. You know what the future is supposed to hold for you, but you don't know how to really get there. So I feel like you. And so it's really hard to plan from one day to the next when your vision is, can only take you so far. if what's out there in the distance that you're trying to reach for or achieve or you know attain is floating up there in the distance. It's warm and inviting and it seems really comforting and it seems like the ultimate vision or the ultimate goal, but the path that is that's like in front of you as to how can I get there? It's very murky. And I know this is something that's really uncomfortable for a Scorpio to believe in, okay? Because you guys are very pragmatic. And I do feel like for the month of December, it's really asking you to have blind faith, to believe that there is something greater than yourself that is guiding you on this journey, and that no matter what, you're going to be able to, it's like take one step and then the next step will show itself. Okay. And it's also telling you as well, don't cross that bridge until you get there. So it's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. So a lot of it has to do with foresight, planning as much as you can, plan within your means. And I always would, I feel like it goes without saying, like saving up for a rainy day because you don't know what's in the distance. You don't know how far the journey really is. You don't know if that twinkling light in that little house is like, half a mile away or even like 1,000 feet ahead of you. So I do feel in this situation, it seems very murky. It seems a little bit uncomfortable. And I almost feel like for many of you, it's almost like we're already, knee deep in this. We need to do it. We need to get there. So we have no choice but to have blind faith in order to get through this journey. For some of you, I do feel like you might have recently broken up with a relationship partner and you're just trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out your bearing. Like, what's next? What's the next step? What do I do from here on out? What is my life going to look like? So you have all of these questions kind of just popping up, and I feel like you want all of those questions answered. You want to know, you want something certain, you want something to kind of like hang your hat on, you want something to ground you, to anchor you, to even like, stroke your hair and say, it's okay, everything's going to be all right. And I feel almost like this is a spiritual journey. It's really teaching you a lot about faith, having blind faith, having trust that, everything is going to work out, having trust that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that you're on your true path. So that's all I can tell you. And so, to preface this reading, what I mentioned before, I feel like there are some major things coming into the picture. And it feels a lot like, having the rug kind of ripped out from under you. And you're going to have to find yourself again. You might be going through some type of an identity crisis. Okay, so for example, if let's say you've been a teacher for like 50 years, okay, let's be realistic, let's say 30 years, and you're burnt out and you're just like, I want a career, like a changing career. And being a teacher, being an educator was always a part of your identity, and now you're trying to figure out, who am I? Okay. Or maybe you might have been like a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, a stay-at-home parent, and that was your identity, the caretaker, the nurturer. And then all of a sudden you might get divorced or separated, and then you're finding yourself having to go back into the labor market, and you're like, what am I good at? What are my skills? What do I want to do with my life now? Now that the other chapter of my life, which is, caretaker, homemaker, teacher, whatever it is, that identity is no longer there. What do I want to do now? So I feel like there's something here to be said. Scorpios, you guys are a fixed sign, and whatever you do it really, really well. Okay, and I feel that way strongly with a lot of Scorpios, with a lot of Virgos. Whatever you put your heart and mind to, whatever you identify as your craft, whatever it is that you do, you don't half-ass things. You do it to the best of your capabilities. You pour your heart, sweat, and tears and soul into a thing, a project, a person. You build it up from the ground, and it is the best that anyone can do. And because of it, it seems like, you leave pieces of yourself in whatever endeavor you undertake. And it's a part of your identity. Everything that you have done, you have built up, is a part of your identity because you're that perfectionistic about the things that you produce. And so when these things are kind of like, the layers of a banana, like the banana peels, when they're peeled away one by one, and we're left with this foreign, white object that is the banana without the peel. It's like, what am I now? Who am I? I do feel this sense of like an identity crisis for some of you. And then I also feel like the sense of excitement, renewal, trepidation for others of you who are willingly embarking on a new path to either change a career, to reinvent yourself, to find the next destination in your life's journey. And so what I sense is this reading could be even like split in half, okay? So there are a few more messages I'm going to relay at the end for you, but let me just go through the cards first because I feel like many of you are just like looking for answers, okay? Like, where do I step? It's almost like, that game Minesweeper. It's like an old PC game for those of you who might not be familiar with it. You click on little boxes, and the boxes are like, you don't know what you're clicking on, but if you happen to click on a mine, then the whole thing explodes and then you lose. It's a really weird game, and I don't feel like there's any rhyme or reason. Maybe there is, maybe I haven't read the instructions, but it seems like a minesweeper game. It's like, I don't want to step here, I don't want to step over there. um, it's almost like you're very hesitant about making a move. I feel like there's something here about like a very delicate situation where one thing can kind of trigger it, or one thing can throw something off kilter or off balance, okay? So let me go through the cards. So first of all, I have here the Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands. This is pretty much, being very laden and burdened with something, okay? The stuff that we accumulate through life, okay? This is a pack rat. This is somebody that hoards. This is somebody that has a tendency to just collect bits and pieces of scraps that they have no use for. And they look at it and they're like, oh, one day I might need that, or one day I can put that to use. And yet the day never comes, so things just pile up, things just pile on. I feel like for some of you, this might be you who might be trying to fill like an emotional void with stuff. Okay, so you might have like a shopping addiction. You might have a penchant to for emotional spending. Spending money to get your mind off something. You might hoard a lot of things to fill like an emotional void. Or you might be dealing with somebody. A lot of Scorpios are very clean, are very minimalist. Or at least, when you buy something, it usually has a function. Okay, it's not just decorative. It usually serves a purpose. And so I feel like you might be dealing with somebody who's messy, who's I want to say like they hoard everything. They might be a little bit greedy. They might be like in your eyes a little bit selfish. I just want you to understand the mentality that you know that or like the psychosis that contributes to this type of behavior. They're usually living in a place of scarcity where they have never had enough, so they've had to resort to hoarding because they're fearful. They're fearful of, like, losing everything and having the rug ripped out from under them and ending up with nothing. So they might, swirl away their assets. They might be very paranoid about having their things taken away. They might even be they might be even like defensive or indignant when you try to correct their behavior or you try to help them. So I do feel like you're dealing with someone who's quite difficult, and I do sense like they're messy. It's hard to get them organized. It's hard to get them motivated. They're very set in their ways, and they're also like not the neatest people to be around. Okay, so I feel that you're dealing with somebody who exhibit these behaviors, and I keep hearing like putting up with it, putting up with it. So you might have, gone a really long time putting up with their behavior, putting up with their quirks, putting up with the way that they behave, putting up with them being super defensive. And, when someone tries to give them advice, they kind of lash out. Okay. And it's sort of like somebody who doesn't really have the skills, but rather than asking for help, they're just indignant. They're like defensive, indignant, closed off, doesn't want to possibly even very proud, and they don't want to appear vulnerable. So I feel here this is a situation where somebody needs help. And I feel that you're getting frustrated with this person. For some of you, this could be like a very stubborn child, okay? For others of you, this could be a very stubborn parent. Siblings, I'm hearing for some of you. It's somebody who has a lot of faults. Let's just be honest here. They have a lot of faults, but they're refusing to admit their faults. They're refusing help. They're refusing your advice. They're just like reckless even. I have the Fool on top of the Ten of Wands, which indicates to me it's somebody who's like caution to the wind, okay? Throw caution to the wind. I don't care. I'm just going to do things my way. It's like jump in first, ask questions later. So you're dealing with somebody like this, and I feel like it is a major because once you guys form emotional connection with a person, a friend, a family member, a lover, your own parents even, once you form those emotional connections, you hold that person in your inner sanctum, and this person becomes like a very important fixture in your life. And so there's a lot of frustration in dealing with somebody like this who it's almost like they don't see a way out. They don't see they're too proud to admit their mistakes. They're too proud to ask for help, okay? Um I feel like in a spiritual way, their soul, their heart is really screaming out for help, okay? I do feel there's some emotional issues here associated with this person. They need help. They're really screaming out for help, and they want you to be patient with them. If in their physical form they're not able to tell you this, in their spiritual form they want to tell you, help me. You're strong enough. You're organized enough, and you're loving and caring enough. And I don't know how to ask for help in my human form, but I'm asking you for help in my spiritual form, in spirit form. And it's showing up here in the Six of Cups. Okay, this is a very strong spiritual connection, emotional connection that you have with this person. They're screaming out for help. And so I would say slow down and heed the signs, heed the warning signs. This person needs something from you. And, you know, they were fighting it. Okay, Seven of Wands, being super defensive. They were fighting it. They were thwarting your advances, or thwarting your advice, or, you know, shrugging it off or blowing you off. But like, I just feel there's a situation here where don't be too quick to get frustrated with this person. I know that, you know, a lot of the times when we have an emotional history with somebody, they know how to push our buttons, right? And they know how to strike us where it hurts. But I feel like there's somebody screaming out for help here, not physically, but emotionally. They need some help, and I feel like for some of you, you might have resentment towards this person, and rightfully so. But I do sense that if, you know, if everyone in their life has tried to help them and hasn't made any traction, hasn't had any successes, you are probably in the best position, because as emotionally wrapped up as you are in this person, you're also very, very sensible when you give out advice. And so you might be in the best position to help this person, okay? So enough about that. I'm going to try to clear up this energy so that we can move on, because I feel like, you know, this shouldn't be taking the majority of. I do sense there's a situation coming back from the past, okay? Season. So a lot of people from our past tend to come back in, shoot us, you know, random text messages here and there, drunk texting, I would say like butt dialing, you know, pretending to butt dial, but like really they're trying to get a hold of you. I do see a situation here where somebody is like testing their water, the water with you, okay? Somebody is like testing where they stand with you. They're trying to like gauge how you're reacting to them. This can be through text messages, through social media, through some type of a distance-based communication. So they're not doing this face to face. You're not seeing them in the flesh. You're not seeing them physically. It's just things that are done, you know, over distance. And what I have here is I have the Eight of Wands, fast, swift communication. By the way, you have an extra card that fell out. And then I have the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords usually indicates a separation, okay? So somebody that you've been separated from is approaching you and wanting contact, wanting communication. I do see communication coming back and forth, but it's linked up here with the Page of Pentacles, so it's very slow. And it's very, you guys have a really good sixth sense. It's like if somebody's coming in and they're not, they're like fishing for information, or fishing for testing the water with you, like you know exactly what their intentions are, because you guys are really sharp. And as soon as you know what their intentions are, you're waiting for them to be blunt and be straightforward with you. You don't want to beat around the bush, and you feel like they have this circuitous way in which they communicate, and it drives you nuts. It gets under your skin. And so you're I feel like Scorpio is thinking, you know, why don't you just spit it out? And then when they keep going around and round and trying to beat around the bush, and not being, you know, upfront and honest with you about what it is that they want, you know, it's not just a simple hello. It's they want something. And I feel for many of you, this is an X, okay? Because with this Three of Swords, this is a separation. And this could have been a painful separation from your end or from their end. Usually, I feel like it might be from their end because I feel like you're losing your patience. So you're not emotionally wrapped up in this. It's gone and done with, but I feel like from their end, there's still cords of attachment to you, and I feel like they're trying to figure out whether or not you're still available, whether or not you're still interested, and so they're beating around the bush. It's getting you more angry, and so you cut off the communication because you want them to be sincere and straightforward and just, spit it out. Like, what do you want? So I see this type of communication coming through. And this might be dotting, this energy. This is somebody that you don't feel like you have that emotional connection anymore. Just leave it alone because they're going to say and do things to frustrate you, to kind of like reel you back in, okay? And then for others, if this is somebody that you want to engage in conversation with, just tell them, hey, I'm really busy, so can you tell me what you want? Just like cut the BS, like cut the bull. Like, let's just be honest. Let's just be adults here. So I feel like just being really clear and being very blunt about your intentions for other people might actually do the trick for this month, okay? Um, what I feel about water signs in general, and this is something that a lot of Cancerian people, Cancerian and Pisces, you guys are a little bit better at it, I feel. Um, you guys are really, really nice people. You don't want to say anything to upset anybody. You also don't want to make anybody feel bad. And like, I love water signs because they're very kind. But I do sense a lot of the times it might be a lot better for you if you're very blunt and very honest with people, okay? Um, Especially this type of people, these types that are coming through, because I feel like they're evasive, okay? They're evasive. And if somebody's being evasive, like not being straightforward with what they want, wanting one thing but saying another, like if someone is just, wishy-washy or like don't even know what they want, mirroring that energy is not going to be helpful, right? So either you do like, one fell swoop, just cut it off, or just be very, very blunt with the communication, okay? Because what I do sense is like that whole foggy scene that I saw at the very beginning is permeating through this entire reading, where information is not clear, communication is not clear, people's intentions aren't very clear. And so rather than having to deal with this murkiness, one step at a time, I feel like it might be better to just splice through the BS and just ask people, what it is, what do you want? Like, what do you want? What do you want from me? Why are you communicating with me after all these months? What exactly is going on with you? Why do you need me? Why are you choosing me other than all the other people you have in the periphery of your life? I feel that holding people accountable, just like for being clear, for being concise, for being blunt with their communication. Because I frankly, I feel like you're going to be very busy. You don't have time for all of this. Okay, so stating your intentions, a lot of the times to the way that we interact with another person, it's always a two-way street, right? We have to make our intentions very clear. If you want to call me or if you want to have a conversation, don't do it through text. Call me directly. And then likewise, the other person can set their expectations for you. It's a two-way street, and I feel like this is not an exception. This is a situation where you really need to be very clear about what you want from the other person, because no one has probably told them, that. No one probably, no one has probably told this person their behavior is problematic, or this person that their communication is not clear. So I feel like it's just going to be very helpful if we hash these things, out before we engage in further conversation, because like what's the point, right? So that's just what I'm feeling, and I just feel like you might be a little bit frustrated this month because of all the things that you have on your plate, all the things that you're trying to wrap up so that you can. I feel for many of you there might be a trip too, so like you're wrapping things up so that you can, be out of work or out of a situation in time to catch a train, catch a flight, catch a ferry, uh, pick up the rental car, something like that, where time is very, very limited. So don't let these things, you know, um, don't let these things interfere with your plans, because they're frustrating, and we don't need to engage in that. Okay, so enough about that. I don't mean to be preachy, but let me just talk a little bit more about a few things. So I feel like there's communication coming there. They show up here, Page of Pentacles. This is sort of like, hey, you want to meet up for coffee and talk, um, like an offer of something, like an offer for a face-to-face type of a sit-down conversation. It's done over like swift through electronic means. So I don't see that you're going to see them. I see that they're, trying to engage you in conversation, because ultimately they want this. They want to give you a gift. For some of you, you might be meeting somebody and they're like, hey, I've got you something. Okay, which is great. And then for others, I feel like this is, exes, people from your past. I also feel for many of you, this might be a situation where there could be, on a lighter note, there could be like year-end bonuses, there could be bonuses, there could be gifts, there could be like performance-based type of a bonus, okay, which is great. And then I also feel like royalties, tribute, or something being given to you because of some work well done, or because you it's like it's owed to you. So like money that might have left your hands for whatever reason is being sent back, okay? It is like being given back. If you have loaned somebody money or favors, these favors or that financial, handout is going to be paid back to you with interest. And then I also feel like for many of you, this is like a huge bonus in a work situation. So we have a lot of things here. I also feel, and I must say this, even though it's negative, but I feel like, I guess like there's a silver lining. For example, if you've had any issues with your home, like let's say a tropical storm hit your house and the roof caves in, I feel like there's some type of a collection, like a insurance payout that will be given to you. Okay, if it has been stalled in the past, there's something coming in to compensate you. If you, God forbid, like got in a car accident, in a fender bender, and your car was totaled, or your car was, you've been dealing back and forth with this very slow process. Knight of Pentacles, the slowest moving messenger in the deck, okay? If finances or news about money, or news about a settlement, or news about, some type of compensation has been so slow and frustratingly, slow in coming, you're going to be able to get some type of an answer. So like it's going to be, you're given an answer, and there's a lump like a lump amount or lump sum that is coming into the picture. So I do feel, in a way, it's like being able to get what is rightfully yours, and being able to, even though there has been a lot of waiting and hang-ups and frustration, for those of you who might be freelancers or contractors or even self-employed, if you work for a client and this client might have been very difficult, there might have been a lot of back and forth regarding their expectations and what they wanted you to do for them and when and how they're going to pay you. All of these things are getting sorted out just so that you can, get the money that's due to you. Okay, this is a situation I feel it's been frustrating. There have been a lot of back and forth, a lot of hang-ups, and I feel like the air is getting cleared up and you can breathe again. Okay, so finances honestly will be really picking up. It's like if you've had financial issues, it's alleviating. If you're on a financial, like, at a plateau, more, and especially if you're like self-employed, more clients will be coming in. And I do feel, March and April, I also feel as if there's a situation here where you are definitely trying to start something brand new. You're trying to, I'm feeling like, cast away the expectations, other people's expectations, your own expectations of yourself. Um, I see this man with a cloak, okay? And the cloak, it's like a cape, a cloak is really heavy, and on it it's like newspaper, like newsprints. That's what it looks like. And he's just like, I'm sick of it, and he tries to cast it off. And what I feel is like, for some of you, you might be in the tabloids, you might be in publishing, you might be dealing with a situation where there's a lot of gossip, or there's a lot of just bickering, banter back and forth. And I feel like in a work environment, it might have been just a series of frustration. You're trying to cast it off and you're trying to go on a new path when it comes to your career. Okay, so we have some really strong major like, we have the Tower as well. The Fool and the Tower, the two major arcana cards that denote pretty much the same thing. Okay, so this is pretty much like breaking down something, starting on a new path. Okay, dismantling something so that you're free to go. And what it seems as if you have been mulling this over for a long time. You're taking all the baggage with you. Okay, you're kind of like, I don't need to be here. I need to be somewhere else. So I'm bringing all of my stuff, moving like physically from one house to the next. I feel like you're defending your position. So you might have a lot of people in your life who might be telling you, don't do that. That's not the right way to go. You've, for example, have been a teacher for 30 years. You have good pension. You have good retirement, but you're burnt out. You don't want to do it anymore. Once upon a time, that was the ideal job for you. But now the job no longer serves its purpose. Your destiny is elsewhere. So you want to leave and you want to jump into something new. But people around you are telling you, are kind of like misguiding you, making you doubt yourself, making you question, like questioning your authority, but also questioning your change of heart. But deep down, Scorpios, you've always mulled over this decision. You guys don't make decisions lightly. And so I feel like you're not in a position where you have to defend your position or your beliefs or your decision to anybody. You don't need to do that. You don't need to justify yourself for anybody. And you're starting to realize that now. But I feel like there was a situation you stayed in for a very, very long time because of obligation, because of expectation, because you were doubting whether or not this is all, it's like, this is all I'm really good at, or this is something I'm really good at. And you were afraid to take a new path because you were really good at this one thing. And like I said, when you do something, you do it really well. And so whatever next venture, career path, profession, like change in profession that you decide to undertake, you're going to do it well. But I feel almost like you're losing faith in yourself, or you're having doubt about your capabilities. So it's really preventing you from taking this next path. Okay? And you have taken a lot of time mulling it over. Okay, this is like really, really slow progress. And you might feel like you're not progressing anymore. You might feel like you've already learned everything there is to learn. There's nothing new, there's nothing interesting about it anymore. So you really want a change in scenery. You really want a change in direction. But this is a turtle, a tortoise. And even at this point, if he wants to pull on the reins and change direction, that tortoise is going to take some time to realign himself and to adjust his body and to move himself in a different direction, right? So change takes time, but I also feel like you've been sitting here defending this and doubting yourself for quite some time and not really sure if this is the right path for you to take. And I feel like everybody around you is very risk averse. They're telling you, stay with the status quo. Don't make any drastic moves. Don't go on this journey. Don't cast it off. Don't travel light. And they want you kind of like strapped and tethered to things that you don't need, to things that are not really helpful for you, or, have become a huge burden to you. And they don't really understand that you're kind of buckling under this pressure. So I do sense this is a decision that you need to make on your own without the noise and the influence of other people, because ultimately, they might want the best for you, but I feel like their advice might not be appropriate for your life, for all the things that you already know about yourself. Their advice might not be appropriate. I feel like there's a group of people here, you're already 10 steps ahead of them. So whatever advice they're giving you is pretty belated and not applicable to your life right now because you're 10 paces ahead of them. Does that make sense? You have already outgrown a situation. There isn't any more growth that you can extract. Wringing a towel, like you can't extract anything else out of it. And so it's time to go. For other of you, there might be a property, like a physical dwelling, a house, an apartment, or whatever it is that's physically holding you back. You might want to, move somewhere else for a new job, but you have a property that you need to sell. Okay? So I feel like there's a lot of like logistics that need to be kind of squared away, and you're trying to make sense of it in your mind. What do I do first? What's step one? Sell the property. Step two, get a job. Or do I get a job first and then try to sell the property? So I feel like everything is like linked up, like, what is that word? I'm sorry, my vocabulary is escaping me. So everything is like interrelated or like embedded or just enmeshed, so one decision can't be made in a vacuum. Okay, like one decision depends on another, and because of it things get really complicated. And I get that, But I do sense that, they're telling you one step at a time. Figure out what you want to do. If the move is what you're trying to do, then go for that move. Maybe find that job first. Once that job is locked down, then you can think about selling the property. So I feel like there's a lot of things here, and in your mind, everything is so interrelated and like embedded and layers upon layers, and you can't really pull yourself from it and make a decision. But the way you're looking at it might be a little bit muddled or might be wrong. So I would say try to simplify, okay? Figure out what you're trying to do first and take the first step to get yourself closer to that situation. Never mind the house, never mind the relationship, never mind the family unit, never mind who needs help over here, who needs advice over here, who needs you to stay here. Never mind all of those things. Figure out what your goal is. The way that you're operating right now, I feel like you have a lot on your mind. You have a lot that you're mulling over. No actions are being taken because I feel like you might be making things a lot more complicated than they need to be. And it doesn't have to be so. Okay, so I don't want to sound patronizing because I know that in your mind, these problems are real and these things are difficult and murky. But I can assure you that everything can be broken down into smaller, more manageable pieces. And when they're smaller and more manageable, they're easily digestible. So I hope, in whatever way this reading is helpful, I hope at least you can take away the message that, break down all these complex things into smaller parts and tackle them one at a time. What I have here is the High Priestess. Following your intuition. And, what exactly does that mean, right? It basically means that you have to have blind faith. I feel like for many of you, you already know what you want to do. You already, like, you're 10 paces ahead of the game, ahead of all the other players. And because you're thinking and advancing so far ahead, inevitably, you always get into a situation where you're doubting, right? It's like, what if this scenario pans out? Or what if, this doesn't work out? What's the alternate route? And I feel like rather than focusing on all the things that could go wrong, we really need to have faith. We really need to trust ourselves that our intuition is guiding us on the right path. Our intuition is kind of like helping us navigate this murky, foggy waterway so that we don't hit the mountainsides. We don't run into, logs in the river, that we will be able to get to our destination where that light is. Because I feel like you might have been doubting your intuition. You might have been doubting a specific path that you're supposed to take. You might have hesitated on taking a once in a lifetime opportunity as it presents itself because it's like out of fear, not trusting your intuition. And I also feel for many of you, the last time you might have jumped into something, like wholeheartedly jumped in because you felt in your hearts of hearts it was the right thing. And for some reason, it might have backfired. Things might have fallen apart. Things might have left you with this huge burden to bear all by yourself. And I feel like you always think back to this moment in time and you're like, I was so sure. I trusted my intuition. How could my intuition, lead me astray? And now because of that, it's coloring your judgment when it comes to this new situation. Where it's asking you to have, in a similar way, to have like blind faith. And so you're kind of jumping back emotionally. You're still here, reeling from whatever the situation this was that really failed. You're reeling from the impact of that. And it's coloring your experience in this new situation. And this new situation is very solid, okay? Pentacles can be built upon. So with this Page of Pentacles, it's an idea, it's a gift. And it's asking you, you know, sort of like, we can build it together. You're not alone in this. I'm giving this to you. Whatever you choose to do with it, you know, is up to you. So I feel like you have the upper hand here, mainly because you've been through really drastically change your life direction for the better, moving away from all this chaos, this nonsense, and moving towards something that has a lot more, I want to say, stability. It's something that you can hang your hat on. It's something that can really anchor you. It's that much needed sense of stability you've been looking for quite some time. Um, I feel for some of you who might be parents, or even if you're dealing with children, okay? You have some really stubborn kids, or some, like I feel like a very obstinate kid who just wants to, it's not that they're stubborn or, you know, rebellious. I feel like they just want to experience things. Okay, so that means if you force them to not do something, they're going to do it either way behind your back. Okay? And so the proper way to address this situation is talk to them and tell them, well, you know, tell them all the possible outcomes. So for example, if let's just say, okay, um, if they're like, I don't know what do kids get into nowadays, but whatever the situation is, let's just say if they decide to cut school, or if they decide to stop going to school, high school, okay, you can tell them, well, here are your options. You can drop out of school now for the rest of your life. You might be working like, you know, a minimum wage job, hoping to advance. That's what your future is going to look like. Or you can, you know, finish school now, continue to go to college, and then your income earning capabilities will be greatly accelerated. Or if you want to quit school now and you want to be self-employed, like lay out those options for them. Because I feel like you're dealing with a child that just wants to experience life for himself or herself. And this child will do it no matter what. Like they can do it in front of you or just behind your back. So it's going to happen. And so you might want to just lay out these options and hope that it's a very smart child, and hope that they're smart enough to figure out the best route for themselves. But preventing them might actually backfire, because I feel like there's some sneaky behavior here. Okay, I'm hearing like while you were sleeping, like you might be looking away, dozing off, and they're just gonna do what they want to do. Okay, so I feel like that's a better option here. The last card that I haven't really talked about, but this is like the dozing off, okay? Four of Swords. While you were sleeping, while you were resting, I feel once again, you know, this entire spread and this entire reading is really about quickening up your pace, being decisive. And I also feel like making this major change. It seems like life is slipping by right while you were sleeping. Life goes on. And I feel like you're waking up for the first time and realizing, where did the time go? Where did my 20s go? Where did my 30s go? And this energy tends to come up a lot with a lot of signs in our life. We're starting to see the acceleration of time, right? Where did the time go? I feel like there's a situation here where you're waking up to your life, to the reality of your life, and you're just like, what have I done with the time? What have I done in my 20s? I should have gotten this done in my 20s. Why am I still waiting until my 30s or until my 40s or until my 50s to get this done? And the advice here is, don't chastise yourself over that. There's a time and a season for everything. And you had to experience other things before you can be emotionally, mentally, and physically and spiritually ready for this thing. So other people got it out of their way in their 20s or in their 30s, but you were learning different lessons. You were going through different things. And right now, where you are, you're meant to experience this thing that most people experience, earlier. It doesn't mean that you've missed out on, you've missed the boat. It doesn't mean that you've missed out on opportunity. It doesn't mean that you're a late bloomer. It just means this is your life path. Okay? So I feel like there's a lot of, I feel this overwhelming sense of like, I missed out. The time has gone by. Time has just, like sand slipping through your grasp. And it's like, it's better late than never. So I feel like you shouldn't let anything kind of get in the way of you starting your life right now. Okay? Better late than never. Do this now rather than, thinking about what could have been if you had done it. I'm going to leave it at that, Scorpios. It is a little bit of a heavy reading. You have some, good news coming through when it comes to your finances. You have some major decisions that you're mulling over that you need to really, I'm hearing like step on the gas, okay? That you need to move things along. And I feel like you've been hesitant about making this major change. Rightfully so. It's a major life change. So this tower, smack dab in the middle, is indicating to me things are coming, waves of change. Okay, look at that giant tidal wave. And you're going in slow motion. Knight of Pentacles. You need to be quick and swift, and you need to quicken your pace and step on the gas, okay? I will leave it at that, Scorpios. I hope the reading finds you well. I hope that you have stayed for the entirety of this reading. I